whenever you choose to take a particular course of action, you're making a lot of choices simultaneously, whether you realize it or not. Yes, you're choosing to do one particular thing, but by spending your limited time and energy and resources doing that thing, you are also giving up all of the other things that you could potentially do with all of that time and energy and money and resources.
True.
And that's a concept called opportunity cost.
Okay.
Now, and your opportunity cost of any decision is essentially the value of the next best alternative. Okay? So if you, for example, decide to join the Peace Corps for a year, and you forego a $60,000 a year position at a company, you are, the opportunity cost of that decision from a financial standpoint is $60,000. You're giving that up. Okay? Similarly, if you decide to go to business school full-time for 2 years, not only is the cost of your tuition and your living expenses and your books and all of that, but you're giving up 2 years of earning money at another thing that all factors into the cost as well.
Okay.
Now, opportunity cost is really important because everyone has to make choices, everyone has to make trade-offs. Okay, and when you choose to do something, you're always simultaneously choosing not to do a whole lot of other things that you potentially could be doing. And it's really important to take those things into account because it is a very real cost of choosing the things or buying the things or doing the things that you're doing. And the more you the more you incorporate that into your decision-making process, the better decisions you can possibly make. Now, this is actually something that also goes along with absence blindness. It's, we don't tend to think about the things that aren't there, but the things that aren't there can also be very important.
It's going to make you crazy, this concept.
Yes. And there's, you want to limit yourself because you're almost like trying to predict infinity, which is not possible. Which really, the only really important thing is what's your next best alternative and what are the costs and benefits of doing that.
And I think it's really important to remember when you go back, it's like with the information at that moment. You can't do this backwards, drive yourself nuts.
Yes, and that's actually a concept we'll talk about in when we get to the human mind called hindsight bias.
Oh, right. Okay.
But opportunity cost is really important, particularly, going back to our discussion of sufficiency. Okay, this is why, if you're working 22 hours a day for $5, why people decide that it's not enough, because they could be doing other things. They have alternatives, and if their alternative is better than the thing that they're doing right now, well, they're going to quit and do the alternative. And so, both for you and for the people you work with and your suppliers and all of these things, opportunity cost is a major deal because that's essentially their next best alternative. And by choosing to work with you, they're foregoing all of these other things. Okay. Also has to do with, when you're making financial decisions in your company about what to spend on. You spend...
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You're not optimizing something else.
Exactly. Yeah. So, particularly like if you're thinking about creating different forms of value, but you have a fixed pool of resources.
Right. You have to pick something to do first.
Yes.
This is Josh's biggest problem.
Oh, yeah.
So many ideas. Which one to do first?
It is. And it's an opportunity cost on... if I choose to invest time or resources or attention into one thing, I'm choosing not to do all of those other things right now. Or, if you choose to, you're doing very well, you choose to pay yourself a salary of $1 million a year, that's $1 million a year the business does not have to do other things to improve the business. Or vice versa. You choose to invest in the business, that's not $1 million that you have to, pay yourself. There are always choices, there are always trade-offs, there are always alternatives.
Yeah. Using this in a personal note, a friend of ours talks about a concept, and it sounds really simple, but just thinking about what you want most.
Yeah.
And instead of thinking about all these amazing things and what you're going to lose, if you can just focus on think about all of the alternatives. What do you want most in one particular situation? I mean, that's literally, we were driving in the car in Ohio up to Josh's parents' house for Thanksgiving. And that's when we decided we were going to do this New York move.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was the opportunity we wanted to have most. So everything else that could have been really awesome, it makes it, I guess it makes it easier to turn down the other things that could potentially be good if you remember that you're really getting the best out of it.
Yeah. And that's, it's what's the opportunity or what's the experience that you want to have. And, the other thing too is opportunity cost is not just financial. I mean, it's a financial it's a concept based in finance, but it applies to really everything in a lot of different ways. What is the experience or memory or emotion or, all of these things. What's the alternative that's going to give you the most of what you want, be it finance or something else? And then what are your next best alternatives and what are you giving up for that? So, a good example of non-financial opportunity cost is if you look at executives at, Fortune 500 companies, a lot of times their divorce and their suicide rates tend to be much higher on average, because of the time involved in managing the business and because of the pressure. There is a very real cost to doing those things. And, if
or at least a high probability.
Right. And, so it's not as if by doing this thing, you're not giving something up. There may be benefits to it, but there are also costs to it. And by choosing, one particular course of action, you're also giving up a lot of other things. Because you can't be in two places at once. You can't spend the same dollar on two different things. You can't take all available options. You have to make a choice. And opportunity cost is how you deal with the choices and how you figure out, based on what you want to do, what are you giving up? And then you can actually make a rational trade-off of, is it worth it for me to spend this or do this or, take this, one opportunity over another? That's opportunity cost.